On the night of September 13, 2014, the promising life of 18-year-old Hannah Graham took a tragic turn. A night that started like any other for a young college student at the University of Virginia ended in a disappearance that would grip the hearts of thousands. Alone, intoxicated, and lost in the heart of Charlottesville, Hannah was last seen walking with a man. A stranger, or so it seemed, whose dark past would unravel in the days to come. As the search for her intensified, little did anyone know, a brutal truth awaited, one that would forever alter the lives of those who loved her. Hannah Elizabeth Graham was born on February 25, 1996, in Manchester, England. She was the daughter of John and Sue Graham, and the youngest of two children. The Graham family moved to the United States when Hannah was still a child, settling in the Washington, D.C. area. Growing up in a loving, close-knit family, Hannah thrived in the environment of encouragement and support. As a young girl, she was known for her academic achievements, her intelligence, and her passion for art. She was an avid photographer and loved capturing the world around her through a lens. Despite the challenges of being a newcomer to the United States, Hannah adapted quickly and became well-liked in her community. By the time she graduated from Westfield High School in Chantilly, Virginia, she had already established a reputation as a hardworking and ambitious young woman. In 2014, at the age of 18, Hannah embarked on the next chapter of her life, attending the prestigious University of Virginia, UVA, in Charlottesville. She was excited about the prospects of college life, eager to dive into her studies, make new friends, and discover her place in the world. For Hannah, UVA was more than just a university. It was the beginning of the rest of her life. She was ready to embrace the challenges ahead, to find herself and carve out a future filled with promise. But little did anyone know, the life that seemed so full of possibility was about to be cut tragically short. On the evening of September 13, 2014, Hannah would disappear without a trace. But what happened that night? What could possibly turn a dream into a nightmare? It was September 13, 2014, and Hannah had just begun to find her rhythm at UVA. Like many college students, she was navigating the newness of it all, making friends, attending parties, and adjusting to the responsibilities of university life. That Saturday, she decided to attend a party at the Delta Tau Delta Fraternity House on UVA's campus. It was an event that many of her peers were looking forward to, and for Hannah, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to have some fun and let loose. As the evening wore on, Hannah's friends noticed that she was becoming increasingly intoxicated. She had been drinking, but they didn't think anything was out of the ordinary at first. Around 10:30 p.m., Hannah sent a message to her friends, letting them know that she had gotten separated from them and was planning to head back to her dorm. The last thing they heard from her was a simple message saying, "I'm lost." But as the night dragged on, Hannah's friends grew concerned. She had always been responsible, and it wasn't like her to just vanish without a trace. She had been alone for some time now, and no one knew where she was. At 1 a.m., CCTV footage would capture Hannah walking alone on the downtown mall in Charlottesville. She appeared disoriented, walking in circles, and seemingly trying to find her bearings. This was the last confirmed sighting of her. But the mystery deepened when footage showed her interacting with a man, later identified as Jesse Leroy Matthew Jr., who would forever be linked to her disappearance. What was Hannah doing with this man? Was she in danger? Did she know him? Or was he someone she had just met? And if he had her in his grasp, would anyone be able to stop what was about to happen? The following morning, when Hannah failed to show up for class, her friends and family knew something was terribly wrong. This was not like Hannah. She was responsible, and her absence was out of character. Her friends immediately began calling and texting her, but there was no response. As the hours ticked by, concern turned into panic. Her parents were contacted, and they, too, could not reach her. Fearing the worst, they immediately contacted the authorities. The Charlottesville Police Department, along with the FBI, began investigating right away. The search for Hannah was intense and urgent. Law enforcement scoured the downtown mall area, where she had last been seen. They reviewed hours of security footage, hoping to spot something, anything that could explain what happened. Witnesses were interviewed, and the footage showed Hannah walking alone in a disoriented state, but it didn't provide the clarity they needed. Was she lost? Did she meet someone? Why was she alone in the streets at that hour? The local community rallied behind the family, offering support in any way they could. Flyers were posted across town, and search parties combed the surrounding areas, including wooded spots, hoping to find even the smallest clue about where she could be. Her friends, some of whom had seen her at the party the night before, were beside themselves with worry, hoping for a sign that she was safe. But the days stretched on, and the hope of finding Hannah alive began to wane. Law enforcement's resources grew stretched as each passing hour made it seem less likely that the young college student would return safely. The clock was ticking, and every minute seemed to bring more questions than answers. Where had she gone? Who was she with? Had something horrible happened to her? The silence from her phone and the lack of clues left a chilling feeling in the air. It seemed like an eternity before the breakthrough the authorities needed would arrive. But it came with devastating news. On October 18, 2014, 5 long weeks after Hannah's disappearance, a grim discovery was made. Human remains were found in a wooded area behind an unoccupied home on Old Lynchburg Road in Albemarle County, Virginia. As the news broke, the weight of the moment hit her family like a ton of bricks. The body, though decomposed, was identified as Hannah Graham. Their worst fears had been realized. She was gone, and her life had been violently taken. The family was left in a whirlwind of emotions. Grief, anger, confusion. They couldn't understand how this could happen to their vibrant daughter, a young woman with so much ahead of her. The cause of death was soon determined to be homicide, though the exact method remained unclear. Investigators pointed to suffocation or strangulation as the likely cause, but the details were still murky. What could have happened in those final moments of her life? Who could have done this to her? The investigation immediately took a sharp turn when it was revealed that Jesse Leroy Matthew Jr. had been the last person seen with Hannah. The 32-year-old nursing assistant was captured on video surveillance walking with her on the night she disappeared. At first, he was just another person of interest, someone who may have interacted with her during the evening. But as investigators dug deeper, they began to realize that Matthew wasn't just an innocent bystander. Surveillance footage and witness statements pointed directly to him as the last known person to be with Hannah. The question now became chillingly clear. Could Matthew have been involved in her death? Was he simply a random stranger who happened to cross paths with Hannah? Or was this a planned and deliberate act of violence? The answers were slowly starting to reveal themselves, but they came with a sinking feeling, a sense of dread. The walls were beginning to close in on Matthew. His movements were being tracked, and his background was coming under intense scrutiny. Was he a predator? Had he been watching Hannah before the encounter? The closer investigators got to him, the more questions they had. But for now, they were left with the unbearable uncertainty. Who was this man, and what role did he play in the horrific death of Hannah Graham? Was Matthew the killer, or was there more to the story? The investigation was just beginning, and the truth seemed further away than ever. What dark secrets lay hidden in his past, and could they unlock the mystery behind Hannah's murder? Matthew's arrest came 2 days after the discovery of Hannah's body, as the investigation into her death took a critical turn. The authorities had been searching for him relentlessly, and the breakthrough came when a woman in Galveston, Texas, recognized him on a beach. She immediately contacted law enforcement, and within hours, Jesse Leroy Matthew Jr. was in custody. His capture was a moment of relief for the police and for Hannah's grieving family, but the answers they needed were still far from clear. After being arrested, Matthew was quickly transported back to Virginia, where he was charged with abduction with intent to defile. The charge sent shockwaves through the community, but it was just the beginning. The case quickly gained national attention, with headlines across the country questioning the brutal nature of the crime and the identity of the man responsible. People across the nation were riveted, wondering how someone so seemingly ordinary could be capable of such a heinous act. And with each passing day, the focus shifted to one central question. What had led Matthew to commit this brutal crime? Matthew was no stranger to the criminal justice system. Authorities were quick to connect him to a 2005 sexual assault case in Fairfax, Virginia. DNA evidence from that case matched Matthew's, and it became apparent that his violent tendencies were not a one-time occurrence. The discovery of his connection to another unsolved assault, combined with his proximity to the scene of Hannah's disappearance, painted a chilling picture. This wasn't just the act of a random stranger. It was the pattern of a predator who had been lurking in the shadows, unnoticed by many, until now. The more investigators dug into Matthew's past, the more disturbing details emerged. He had a history of predatory behavior that stretched far beyond Hannah Graham's murder. It became clear that his pattern of violence wasn't confined to one victim. It was part of a darker, more sinister history that had been hidden from the public eye. The investigators began to piece together the disturbing truths about his past. Truths that had remained buried for years, waiting for the right moment to come to light. Matthew's behavior was increasingly being viewed through the lens of a serial predator. He was not just the prime suspect in the disappearance of one college student. He was quickly becoming the center of a much larger and far more terrifying investigation. The more police learned about his background, the more they realized that this was not the first time he had violated someone's trust or taken something precious from them. It was now clear that the world had been blind to Matthew's true nature. Could this truly be the end of the story? Or was there more to uncover about Jesse Matthews' dark past? What other crimes had he committed before, and were there victims who hadn't yet come forward? As the investigation continued, one question loomed large. How many secrets had he been hiding, and what was waiting to be discovered about his past? In March 2016, after more than a year of public speculation, legal battles, and media coverage, Jesse Matthew Jr. finally faced justice for his crimes. The trial was a long, emotional process for everyone involved, especially for Hannah Graham's family, who had lived through the pain of waiting for answers and justice. In a heartbreaking moment, Matthew pleaded guilty to the murder of Hannah Graham. The courtroom was filled with emotion as the truth about her death came to light. The prosecution made it clear that this was not an accident. This was a brutal, intentional act carried out by a man who had carefully hidden his dark side for far too long. Matthew was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, a sentence that would ensure he could never harm another person again. But for many, the conviction wasn't enough to quell the deep sorrow and anger that lingered. Yes, Hannah's murderer was behind bars, but her family would never see their daughter again. They would never hear her laugh, see her smile, or watch her live the life she had so rightfully earned. Justice had been served, but the weight of their loss remained a crushing presence in their lives. However, Matthew's guilt didn't just extend to Hannah Graham. As the trial unfolded, a chilling discovery was made. Matthew was linked to another violent crime. Investigators had discovered that he had been involved in a 2005 abduction and sexual assault of a woman in Fairfax, Virginia. DNA evidence had finally connected him to that crime, revealing a disturbing pattern of predatory behavior. Matthew pleaded guilty to that crime as well, and he was sentenced to 3 additional life terms in prison. The weight of his actions was now fully realized, as the scope of his crimes stretched far beyond what anyone had initially understood. The case sent shockwaves through the community. It wasn't just the brutal murder of a young woman. It was the realization that a predator had been walking among them for years, unnoticed and undetected. This case became a symbol of the need for greater awareness of the dangers lurking in plain sight, and a call for justice for the victims of violent crime. But while many breathed a sigh of relief that Matthew would never again harm anyone, a darker truth remained. The grief was palpable, and the void left by Hannah's death would never be filled. As the trial came to a close, a chilling realization set in. How many more women could Matthew have harmed before finally being caught? What if there were other victims who had never come forward, whose voices had been silenced by his brutality? The questions haunted everyone involved in the case, and the fear that there were untold horrors waiting to be uncovered lingered in the air. The horror of Matthew's actions didn't just end with Hannah. How many other lives had he destroyed, and how many more secrets lay buried in his past? While the trial and the verdict brought a sense of closure to some, the haunting truth still lingered. Was this the end of Jesse Matthew's reign of terror? Or was it only the beginning of more dark revelations to come? As the case closed, one question remained. How many more untold stories did Matthew's past hold? Hannah Graham's story, though tragically cut short, does not end with her death. The heartbreak of her murder resonated far beyond her immediate family, rippling through the UVA community and across the nation. Her case served as a painful but necessary reminder of the vulnerabilities women face daily, especially on college campuses where they are supposed to feel safe and secure. The brutal crime exposed the urgent need for stronger protections for students and highlighted the chilling reality of the dangers that can lurk behind seemingly innocent faces. It sparked a nationwide conversation about campus safety, the responsibility of universities to protect their students, and the critical need for more rigorous screening and awareness to detect the red flags of predators in their midst. The tragedy of Hannah's death raised unsettling questions about how someone like Jesse Matthew was able to slip through the cracks for so long, undetected and unchecked. It underscored the often overlooked reality that predators can blend into communities, sometimes hiding in plain sight until it's too late. The case became a symbol of the ongoing fight for justice, but also a powerful reminder of the need for collective action to prevent similar horrors from happening again. For her family and friends, the grief of losing Hannah was indescribable. Her parents, John and Sue, along with her siblings and close friends, had been left to grapple with the irreparable loss of a daughter, a sister, and a friend. They were haunted by the vibrant young woman who had been stolen from them in such a violent way. Yet, even in the face of their overwhelming grief, there emerged a deep and unyielding desire to keep Hannah's memory alive. They refused to let her death be in vain. Instead of allowing her story to fade into the past, they channeled their pain into action, determined to honor her legacy by making a meaningful difference in the world. In honor of Hannah, her family established the Hannah Graham Memorial Fund. The fund supports causes that were close to Hannah's heart: personal safety, student rights, and victim advocacy. It is dedicated to helping other students and victims of violence, ensuring that they receive the support they need and raising awareness about issues of campus safety and the importance of protecting vulnerable individuals from harm. Through the fund, her family hoped to create a lasting impact, one that would continue to affect change long after their daughter's tragic death. Her legacy also found its way into the hearts of others in the UVA community and beyond. As students, faculty, and citizens across the country reflected on the loss, they were inspired to be more vigilant, more aware of the safety of those around them, and more committed to advocating for those who might not have a voice. Hannah's story became not just one of sorrow, but a call to action, a reminder that no one should ever be forgotten, that justice must be pursued, and that the fight for the safety of young women must continue. Her murder forever scarred the Charlottesville community, but it also ignited a fire that has driven many to ensure that the systems in place to protect students are continually evaluated and strengthened. The tragedy inspired reforms and advocacy campaigns designed to raise awareness about sexual violence, the importance of self-defense, and the power of community support. Through it all, Hannah's family stood firm in their commitment to transforming their pain into something positive, ensuring that their daughter's legacy would continue to spark change in a world that needed it. Even after the passage of time, as life moved on and the headlines faded, Hannah's story remained in the hearts of those who knew her and those who were touched by her life and death. Her spirit, her warmth, and her dreams will forever live on through the work of the Hannah Graham Memorial Fund, and the message that justice and safety for all should always be a priority. Though justice had been served, the story of Hannah Graham's life and the tragic circumstances of her death continue to spark change. But the question remains, what more can be done to protect others from a similar fate? Can her legacy inspire the lasting change that her family so desperately hopes for? And will it be enough to prevent another senseless tragedy from unfolding? The story of Hannah Graham serves as both a reminder of the darkness that can lurk in everyday life and a call to action for us all. But with each revelation, we are left wondering, what if Jesse Matthew wasn't the only predator lurking in the shadows? Are we truly safe, or is there more lurking behind the veil? The death of Hannah Graham is a haunting tragedy that continues to reverberate through her family, the UVA community, and the nation. Her story reminds us of the fragility of life and the urgency of protecting those we love. The answers to many of the questions surrounding her murder may have been found, but the lasting impact of her story will echo far beyond the courtroom. If you found this case as chilling and mysterious as we did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more true crime stories. Don't miss out on future cases, updates, and deep dives into true crimes.